Things are starting to heat up. Our San Antonio Spurs are on the road for the first time this preseason as they prepare to take on the Miami Heat. And it's only right because the Spurs have been off to a hot start. What's good, Spurs family? I am Bryan Colbert Jr., and this is Spurs Digest. It's another one of your super early pregame shows. Good morning to all of my Spurs fans that are up. And if you're getting up a little later in the day, man, shout out to you guys. It is another day for Spurs preseason basketball. So you know we had to hit you with a pregame show. If you have not yet subscribed, make sure you subscribe. We are on the road to 2K before the season starts. Hit the little ring thing so you get notified every time we post, because we are going to be giving you content after content. We are rolling, and we appreciate everybody that subscribed. We appreciate everybody that supported so far. We have so many fun things to get into with you guys, and you know this has been a really cool thing, like getting able to interact with you guys in the comments and just be a part of this new community, man. It's been a lot of fun. So now we got to get into it, right? We got to talk about tonight's game. But before we do anything else, like I need you guys to understand. We record these very, very early in the morning. These come out super, super early. So a lot of times we don't have the official actives and inactives list for the game. So a lot of times we're going to just be speculating what we think. I mean, in the season, it's going to be a lot different, but preseason, you know, they decide last minute who's going to play. But let's take a look first at the inactives for tonight's game. So we have Devin Vassell. He's already been listed as out. Charles Bass, he's still working on that knee. He's out. So Wemby is listed as questionable, undisclosed, which a lot of times, like, I mean, when you have a guy like Wemby who's already played a preseason game or two and has shown what they're capable of doing, just coming off the Olympics, there's really no reason to have to play them. But we're going to talk as if, you know, Victor is playing, or maybe we'll talk as if Victor is not playing. A lot of our conversation today is not really revolve around Victor as much as the other pieces, because again, I think that's what the preseason is showing us. Who we're going to be seeing in these rotations, who we're going to see be coming off the bench, who's going to be playing what type of minutes. And I think we've kind of seen a little bit of that so far. So let's get right into, you know, our first thing that we're looking for in tonight's preseason game against the Miami Heat, and that is, for me, the depth at size, the rotation at big man for the San Antonio Spurs. Now, this was our first game. Last game was our first time getting to see Zach Collins play in the preseason, and he looks like he's going to be playing big minutes, which we got to assume, right? He's really the only other true center on the roster, other than Charles Bassey, who, you know, we don't know when he's coming back. But Zach, you know, he looked good. He looked like he took a lot of shots. I mean, he looked rusty, as you would imagine. But there was one thing about Zach Collins to me that is so impressive, and why I think that he will have a spot on a Gregg Popovich roster for a very long time. And he's a grinder, man. I remember we would have to go into practices media to like help with media. So like I would go to every practice they would have at the old training facility. And Zach made a point of being the last guy on the court working out at all times. Every single day, every single practice, Zach Collins was the last guy getting up shots, last guy doing workouts. And, like, he made a point of it. And to me, I mean, that's a tone setter right there, right? That's a guy that is showing who I am. Now, Zach Collins, like, he came into the league pretty hot. Then he got injured. And then things kind of dwindled. He'd been trying to get back into it, and the Spurs gave him a chance. The Spurs gave him a chance to come back and show that he could not only play in this league, but also be a starter in this league. Like, the Spurs have had him starting for a very long time, and best believe if Victor ever moves to that 4, Zach Collins is the one that's playing that 5 as far as the way that this roster is built. But yeah, Zach was a grinder, man. He would always work. He'd always take time to talk to the media too, which I thought was really dope. But he always was on the last one on the court. I don't know about the first one because a lot of that stuff's blocked off. But like towards the end of practice, he'd always be the last person getting up shots, doing a final workout. And to me, he's just a guy that gets it. So like as much as you can see Zach Collins play, you know you're gonna get somebody that hustles. You're gonna get somebody with grit. You're gonna get somebody that take those tough fouls to get into the opponent's head. Zach Collins to me is somebody that's very, very special and important for this team as far as like our depth at big man are concerned. And speaking of depth at big man, I think we got to talk about our big guy, Mamu. Now, I do call him a big guy, but he is only 6'9". He is our power forward. But, man, Mamu has looked so good this preseason, man. I mean, just been a sharp shooter for the Spurs. I mean, one thing I've noticed about this preseason already is the way that they're moving the ball. The Spurs always move the ball well, right? But it seems like there's an extra emphasis on that right now. And he is a big reason why that ball movement has been so effective, because when he has the look, he's taking it. And 9 times out of 10, he's hitting it. His shot has looked so good. And to be able to stretch the floor like that, especially when you have a guy like Wemby who just makes so much space for everybody else, you need to have guys that can shoot like that. And I don't know if we had a 4 that was really shooting consistently. Like, yeah, Jeremy Sochan could fill it up every now and then, but he has to do a lot of different things. Like, Mamu, for me, is really that stretch 4 that is a great piece to have, a great role player to have when you have a team like this, when you have a roster like this. Mamu, to me, is one of the few people that can actually do this. Now, the only issue with Mamu is that he is a smaller guy. He is, like I said, he's only 6'9", and he's pretty stocky. Like, I mean, you look at this picture, he's not really a small guy. However, he doesn't have the elite athleticism and size you would want out of a good defender, especially at the 4. Because remember, these 4s are switching a lot. There's a ton of switching going on in the NBA, especially for the Spurs, and that is the only reason why I could see Mamu not being on the court as much, just because sometimes he could be a defensive liability. But I mean, when you got a guy that could shoot, you're going to find a way to get him on that court, especially, like I said, playing next to a guy like Victor Wembanyama, who, to me, makes things so much easier for shooters. Like, you are a shooter's best friend if you're a guy like Victor Wembanyama, because, again, guys are going to be double teaming you, triple teaming you, and there's going to be guys open. And to me, Mama's going to get a lot of good looks and a lot of shots. And he's a young cat. I think he's only 24. So he's somebody that's also part of this young Spurs crew that you could see developing. They're looking for guys to build around Wemby, right? They're looking for guys that they could say, you know what, they're going to, he's going to be a piece that we could keep, and also a very inexpensive piece as well, because, I'm sure we're looking to add more veterans. And let's move on to the next one, because this next guy I actually like a lot, man. He's a really good cat, and it's great to see him balling out, because I know his journey to the league hasn't been easy. Like a lot of these Spurs players, and that's Julian Champagnie. Julian Champagnie has actually gotten the starting nod at the 2 since Devin Vassell has been out. And you see, again, he's going to be out. We talked about that earlier. He'll be out in tonight's game in Miami. And Champagnie has been lights out, shooting nearly 50% from the three-point line so far this season. And he just looks good. And to me, I don't expect Champagnie to be a starter anytime soon. However, when you have a role player like this that can come off the bench, that can score, that can play defense, that plays smart, that plays within the offense, it doesn't do too much, it doesn't make mistakes. This is a guy in Julian Champagnie that does all of those things. And when you have a team that you're still trying to figure out, you're trying to figure out what pieces mesh, what guys before the Victor era that you have that are going to be able to stick on this team and have some longevity, I think Julian Champagnie gives you a lot of flexibility. Because if you have a guy like this as a role player on your bench, maybe you can move Dev and Keldon for a big package. Maybe you can bring in a Tre Young. Maybe you can get different guys because you have depth like this. Now, I'm not saying I think Julian Champagnie is necessarily a trade piece, but I do think he's a guy where you're willing to give up maybe a shooter or a scorer to get even better, knowing that you have a guy like this on your bench that also can be a scorer for you. I mean, this guy shoots really well, and he plays hard, right? He plays hard. He plays the style of basketball Gregg Popovich wants to see. And you look at these numbers right now, they're not great, but again, he wasn't getting a ton of minutes. Like, this is a guy that I think could easily average double digits, getting a good amount of minutes. And the way you've seen Pops to keep this kid around, after signing him through the G League, giving him a contract, he has a great inexpensive contract, just like Mamu. Like, they found ways to get these role players for the low. And granted, you have to do that too when you're just trying to build your roster, when you're not getting a lot of guys coming in. But I do think that that's in the past for the Spurs. I do think you're going to be getting a lot of attention, a lot of guys that, want to play. And, having guys like this that, are on low contracts but can still ball out and fill it up, I think it's great. I'm really expecting Champagnie to be a really big piece of this roster and somebody that, pushes a lot of those minutes, because there's guys like Blake Wesley, Malachi Branham, who are also pushing for minutes, who are also showing that they can play. Stephon Castle, who we'll talk about a little later, the rookie. Like, this guards, it's a lot of depth in this guard role, but I think it shows a lot about what Pop thinks about Julian by the way he's starting, the way he's playing him right now. because there's no reason to be playing the cat unless you expect him to be getting minutes. So it's been great to see that as well. Julian Champagnie, a guy that I just think is a grinder, somebody that is going to have a long career in this league. 3-and-D guys are exceptional, and to me, he reminds me a lot of like a Josh Richardson, somebody that's just going to play. Spurs fans love them some Josh Richardson, and he just seems like one of those guys that can play that role. And then our last and final thing, which I think will be my feeling the entire preseason, is the Rook, man. Stephon Castle, man. The Rook has looked good. He has looked calm, and he doesn't look like this is too big for him. He doesn't look like this moment is too big for him. Yes, he was a number 4 pick, which doesn't come with the pressure that a number 1 pick has, like Wemby has. However, he is the second highest pick the Spurs have had in a very, very long time, and there's a lot of pressure with that when you are that first rookie picked after the Victor era, right? Like that first guy that they draft to play with Victor. Like there's a lot of pressure, and he does not look like he's bothered by the pressure at all. He gets to the line, he makes good plays, he's playing defense, he's picking up full court, he's doing all the little things you want to see from your young guys, you know what I mean? And things that you don't always see from a number 4 overall pick, but he looks good. He's shown an ability to fill it up in multiple ways. Like I said, he gets to the line, he can shoot from the 3, he can make plays for others, and to me, I think that I want to see this guy get as many minutes as possible this year. Like, yes, we're pushing for a playoff run. However, I don't think it's going to be like an actual run. I think maybe we'll be in the play-in. I think maybe we'll show promise. We'll get Victor his feet wet in the playoffs. So I say, man, this season, man, let this kid play. Let him play next to Chris Paul as much as possible. At 6'6", he is the perfect guy to play next to Chris Paul. I know we have Dev. I know we have Keldon. But I think a guy like this getting your starting rotation allows you to be a little more creative with how you use these other guys, these Jeremy Sohans. Like, you have a lot of versatile players, and you got to figure out where they fit and where their roles fit. And I think that having a guy like Stephon Castle really helps with that because he can guard the best players on the court. He can make his own shot, but he also can do all those little things and also hit an open shot, which we know we desperately need. So I've really enjoyed seeing what Stephon Castle's been able to do. Like I said, like, he looks comfortable. He looks like he's a dark horse for Rookie of the Year. Like, I really think that because I think of the way he's going to get used. And, like, Popovich is going to let his guys play. We see a lot of guys playing the G League for the Spurs, but I don't think this is going to be it. I think this guy's going to get minutes. I don't know if he's going to start right away. However, they're going to find ways to get this guy on the court because, again, you get the most value out of Chris Paul by having him play next to this cat, by showing him how to play the game of basketball, by teaching him how to move on the court, and just by getting those reps, getting those minutes. So I'm really, really excited to keep seeing Stephon Castle do his thing because, again, he's a guy to me that is going to be so valuable in the development of Wemby and the development of this team as they push to become that championship team, that championship roster. And yeah, guys, I'm excited. Our first road trip of the preseason, and it's in South Beach, man. Don't get better than that. The guys love to be in Miami, and yeah, man, it's a great young team that we're about to play as well. These guys that are playing on the Heat, they're going to be getting minutes. Like, we showed the inactives. Bam was not on that. I didn't show the Heat's one, but these guys are going to play. These young guys are going to play, and it's going to be a great test. Like, it's always a great test. Every time you see the Spurs out there this season, it's going to be a great test because, again, they're still trying to figure things out, man. When you have a guy like Victor, it's very, very difficult to be able to figure out who fits where, because not only is it, a lot of talent on the court, it's polarizing, right? There's a lot of things going on, but that's why we're here, right? That's why we have so much intrigue in this team. That's why it's so exciting to see these guys play, and that's why we're making preseason videos on and that's why we're making pregame videos on just preseason games, Spurs family. We have been having so much fun with y'all. Remember to subscribe, to share, to comment. Talk to us. We want to hear from you guys. We are quickly approaching the season. It's crazy to think the season is almost here, and we are so excited to keep making videos and content for you guys as the season gets here and as the season continues. I am your host, Bryan Colbert Jr. This is Spurs Digest, early pregame show. Good morning, Spurs family. We are here with y'all throughout the day. Holla at us, man. We cannot wait to talk to y'all for the next pregame show. And, yeah, let's get this W, Spurs family.